Welcome. We are going to call to order the April 2023 Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. Madam Clerk, if you would please do a roll call.
Curtis Brown.
Present.
Jonathan Repass.
Present.
Doug Lloyd.
Present.
Garrett Holt.
Present.
Cecil Anderson.
Present.
Terry Kerr.
Present.
Sherry Garrett.
Present.
Rebecca Longmire.
Present.
Paul Huff.
Present.
All members are present.
Thank you so very much. And Mr. Repass, if you would please lead us in our pledge.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have quite a few folks in the room today, so everyone make sure you silence your phones. I'll do mine as well. All right, members of the Board of Zoning Appeals are volunteers from each commission district. We do not receive compensation for our work on the board or any training that we attend. As a quasi-judicial body, we avoid ex parte conversations and conduct our business in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. My name is Terry Kerr, and I'm the chairman of the board. To my left is Ms. Longmire, and to my right is Mr. Moyers with the Law Director Office. And Steve, if you would let us know who's with you today.
Yes, you have myself, Steve Elliott. We have Kim Jarnigan, Kelly Vaughn, and from Knox Planning, we have Mike Reynolds.
Okay, thank you. Our voting procedure requires 5 positive votes for a motion to be approved, regardless of the number of board members that are present at the time of the vote. And today we have all non-members. If I could have an approval of last month's minutes of our meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so approved. The Knox County Board of Zoning Appeals is authorized to grant variances and hear other matters by the Tennessee Code and the Knox County Zoning Ordinance. Specifically, these laws prescribe parameters required to grant a variance. The burden of proving the grounds for a variance request rests upon the applicant. For each matter, the clerk will read the request into the record. I will then ask if the applicant is present, and then I'll ask if there's opposition or other speakers who wish to present. You do not have to come forward at this time. Once we determine the speakers for the item, we will call on governmental agencies such as Knox County Planning, Engineering to make any statements regarding the facts pertinent to the property and background of the request. Board members may ask questions of the governmental agencies once they have made their statements. Then I'll call on the applicant to come forward, state your name and address for the record, and present your evidence and reasoning supporting the granting of a variance. If there is no opposition, the applicant has 10 minutes to present their case. If there is opposition, the applicant and opposition will each have up to 15 minutes. After the applicant's presentation, board members may ask questions of the applicant. Then I will call for opposition or other parties who have up to 15 minutes to speak. This 15 minutes applies to all parties, so if there are multiple parties that wish to speak, please determine how you're going to divide your time beforehand. After the opponents speak, the board members may ask questions of the opponents. Finally, there'll be a discussion of the case by the board, during which time commissioners may ask further questions of parties that have already testified. Then the board will make any determinations it deems necessary. Our bylaws allow an applicant at the initial hearing on a matter to request a deferral of 30 or 60 days without prejudice. And in the event of a deferral of an application or a failure to appear, any opponents may be heard on the record at a meeting where the application they oppose appears on the agenda. All right, and if we could now, Mr. Morris, if you could swear in the speakers.
All right, if you're here to speak to this board, either for or against any item on the agenda, if you plan to speak today, please stand and raise your right hand. All right, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give today be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, be seated.
All right, do we have any agenda changes or corrections?
No, none. I think we already addressed those with you.
Okay. All right. For any of the applicant requests, we don't have any that are on any deferments today. Everything is in place. All right. So, Madam Clerk, if you would please read the first item.
4A is a request, Lana Arwood, for waiver of front yard setback from 35 feet to 12 feet at 7817 Jefferson Oaks Drive, CLT map 037, Group ND, parcel 031, property zone RA in the 7th Commission District.
Okay, is the applicant present? Yes. Okay, and do we have any opposition on this one? We do, okay. All right, so if the applicant would come forward, we'll be asking you in just a second. So do you have any statements for codes?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Do I just stand?
Just come to the mic, to the podium right there, I'm sorry. And then when you get there, if you would just give us your name and address for the record, and make sure you pull the mic down to you because it's hard for us to hear.
Okay. Lana Arwood, and it's 7817 Jefferson Oaks Drive.
Okay, and could you let us know your reason and the evidence supporting your request? So let us know why you're asking for the variance and what evidence do you have showing us we should give it to you?
The pictures that I brought, and just that the gentleman that, because I bought that storage unit in 2009, 2008, and he was going to put it in the backyard. He said there's no way to get down there. He says it's too deep down there. He wouldn't do it. He said there's no way you can get that down in there, which I didn't know that there was not a way to get down there, because I've seen them like put mobile homes in places. I don't even know how they got them there. So
Right.
I thought they could do anything, and he said absolutely not. You cannot. It's too far down in there. So he said he had to put it in the front, the yard. That's the only place he could put it. And I said that's fine temporarily. Maybe we can do that. And so he did. And while I was calling a construction gentleman to see what my choices were, and I had my neighbor, Miss Karen, come up to my house banging on the door. I thought somebody had been hurt. I thought somebody had been killed. I didn't know what was going on. But no, she didn't want to look at the storage unit was the problem.
Did you say you purchased it, when did you purchase it?
In 2008 or 9,
Where has it been?
at another house that I own.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was confused. Yeah, okay, yeah, I was just wondering if it's been there all that time, why it's just come up, but that makes sense.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
All right, does anyone on the board
And I
have any?
have pictures to show how deep it was, and from my deck where you look down and there's no place to put it apparently, that they can get it down in there.
Okay, do we have copies of those pictures or no? We do?
No, we don't.
We don't have copies of them though, is that correct? You haven't submitted those pictures yet, is that right?
Oh, no, I did not. I'm sorry. I thought I was
Okay.
supposed to bring them with me.
Okay. We can look at them. And in the meantime, Ms.
Thank
Garrett,
you.
is that,
And you can see the black tarp on there. That's where these gentlemen had to move my, I have a patio back there down in the ground, and they had to move my benches off of it, so you can see a black tarp that used to cover my benches.
okay. Okay, go ahead.
How long has it been on the property?
Where I live now,
Yes.
since January, I think the first or second week.
And you're asking for a 12-feet setback? Approximately how many feet back is it sitting right now
How far is it sitting from where?
from the road? You're asking for a setback from 35 feet to 12 feet.
Right.
And how many feet is it sitting back right now?
Probably 10 or 12 feet. You're talking about from the line of my property, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Can it be moved closer to your house?
Sorry?
Can it be moved closer? I'm right here.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Can it be moved closer to your house?
I don't know if I can, because there's stairs that go down, and he put it right against the stairs that go down into that, I call it a gully, but it's in the back.
All right, thank you.
Thought I had let's see. So I'm going to ask codes for the picture that I'm looking at that we saw earlier today. Thank you. It looks like it is in the front yard.
Yes.
It is in the front yard.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is. If it got back behind the 35 feet, we would determine that to be a side yard, but it is in the
Okay.
required front yard.
Mr. Huff?
That measurement you gave us earlier, is that from the edge of the road It appears to be about 10 feet from the edge of the road, from the curb line.
I apologize, I did not hear any of that, I'm so sorry.
Is that measurement you gave us earlier from the edge of the road, from the curb, or from the property line?
Curb,
Which is not necessarily the property line.
is it not? That's not my property on the other side of the curb?
No.
Whose property is it?
Well, there's a strip that belongs to whoever owns the road.
Oh, no, I mean on this side of the curb, my yard.
That's right. There's a
Okay.
strip of land between the curb and your property line that belongs to whoever owns the road. It's part of the right-of-way for the road.
Okay,
So you are probably a lot closer than 12 feet to your
yes,
property line.
if that's not my yard, then yes, that's correct. If that's not my property, it would be.
Where would we start the measurement from?
Where was the what?
I'm asking codes, I'm sorry. Where would you start the measurement from?
From the
the
property, from the property line.
Property line.
And roughly, there's 50 foot of right-of-way there, 26-foot wide street, so there should be about 12 foot of right-of-way on her side. So
Okay.
from back of curb, her request is 12 feet. She should be 24 feet away from the back of curb
Okay.
to meet this request.
Okay, do you have anything else you want to add? If we don't have any other questions from the board, we'll call opposition, and then we can let you come
no,
back and
just
finish
that-
your time. How much more time?
For some reason, they kept having to, someone kept knocking my sign down. I don't know why they were knocking my sign down, the variant sign. And plus, for the first time in 5 years, they had 2 teenage boys throw a ball that could not throw a ball in front of my yard, and I don't know why. I don't know if they were taking pictures of them playing in front of my yard. I have no clue why these 2 boys that couldn't throw a ball was throwing a ball and kept hitting our house and kept hitting our vehicles.
Oh,
I have
goodness.
no clue what that was about.
Well, thank you. If you want to hold just a second, we'll have opposition
Sure.
pop down, and then
Do I just,
you can just, if you want to sit, close right there behind you
Right
in
here?
one of those red
Yeah,
chairs, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
thank you.
Okay, in opposition? Do we just have one person in opposition that was going to speak today? We have 4 people, is that 4 I see? Are y'all going to divide your time, or are you going to have one person be a spokesperson? Are you going to have one person speak, or you want me to divide your time?
It's just going to be the way it is, that's fine.
Okay. I'm sorry, there's a bug flying around my head.
It's okay.
ca-
Can you hear
y'all
me
keep
all right?
saying that. I'm good. If you would state your name and address for the record.
I'm Dennis Wood, 7820 Jefferson Oaks Drive. I live right across the street from this lady.
Okay. You can go ahead and let us know.
Our
Your
problem
thoughts?
with the building is the corner's only really 5 feet from the curb, pretty much. And those kids play right there in that curb. And I'm sure that in this flat in front of our house, and that's probably why those kids are throwing football. We have a bunch of children who live on our road, and they ride their bicycles around through there. And you cannot see around that building. And that was my wife that went in and talked to her before those men got gone. They were putting the building there, saying you can't leave that there. And it is in her front yard, and it's obstructing the view big time. That's all I've got. It's just
Okay.
somebody's going to get hurt, especially one of those kids.
Go ahead.
We got an email from someone, actually Tiffany Marshall, about the fire hydrant being
The
not able
fire
to-
hydrant's probably 10 feet behind this building.
Behind the building?
Well, yeah, and the building's sitting kind of parallel with the road, so the fire hydrant's right back there, and you can't see it hardly. I don't think they could get to it very easily. We've got a retired fireman with us here. He could probably verify for that.
You can see how far it is. I think I've had pictures of it. You can see how far it is from the building.
Okay, we'll hold just a second and let you come back up to comment on anything that's being said. Would you like for the fireman to come up and say something? You have time if you would like to. Were you sworn in, sir? Yes. Okay. And if you will, too, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is James Waller. I live at 7825 Jefferson Oaks Drive. And the fire hydrant is close behind the building. It would be difficult to get to it with a fire truck but also my driveway backing out, I can't see around the curve or anything backing out. It's just blocking the view. But other than that, I mean, I feel sorry for them. They got a bad lot, but that wasn't my problem.
I understand. Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? One more. Yeah. And if you would state your name and address for the record.
And I was sworn in. I'm Kimberly Wood, the first gentleman's wife that lives across the street at 7820 Jefferson Oaks. And I just wanted to make sure, a lot of neighbors had stopped me and talked to me, and I know it's hearsay at this point, but they had sent emails and letters and phone calls. One of my neighbors couldn't come today. She tested positive for COVID yesterday, but she has been on the email chain, and she actually filled out the formal complaint. I can give you that name if you want it. Otherwise, we can leave that anonymous. And then there's another neighbor who also wanted to be here but is out of town and was unable. But we all do feel bad about the situation. I hate it when you have a lot that you can't do anything with, but you flat out can't see around it. My mailbox, we've been there 30-something years, and my mailbox got plowed over. After all these years, you can't see around that corner.
Okay. Thank you. If there's no more comments from opposition, Ms. Arwood, if you'd like to come up and make any statements.
Yes, again, in 5 years, there's been no children played in front of that house, around the corner, or anything since I've been there. And I have cameras up that shows that no children have been playing on the street except that one day. And her mailbox was knocked down a few years ago.
Okay.
Which has nothing to do with my building, so I don't know why she said that.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions for Ms. Arwood?
I do.
Okay.
Ms. Arwood, would it be possible to cut down some of the shrubbery and trees and move it back?
We did cut down the trees, but the trees were blocking the corner anyway before the building was ever put there. The trees you couldn't see because of the trees. The trees have always been there. Before I ever came there, no one said a thing about the trees.
No, that's what I'm not asking. I'm asking you, if you cut more trees or shrubs down, could you move the shed back further?
No, we've already been cutting trees down now to redo our lawn, our front yard, but no, because of the gully goes straight down. He said, even if you cut the trees down, I said, are you sure you can't come down? He said, it's too steep. I cannot get anything down there. There's no way.
Okay, thank you.
Can you show the Here we go.
Sorry?
I was asking for them to show the topography
Okay.
map.
All righty.
Gotta pass those around. Can't see that far away. Mr. Huff?
I do have a question, though. One thing, I'm so sorry, one more thing. In that plan, my house does not sit catty-cornered. It sits the other way. It faces that, and it's over here. My house is not catty-cornered. It sits facing the street perfectly, parallel with the street. And then my driveway is right there. So my house is not even near the street. It's over that way. I don't know why it's that way on that picture. I have no idea. I even corrected it on the city planning thing. They supposedly were supposed to correct it, but I see it's still not corrected.
How would that be corrected if that's inaccurate? What would she need to do?
You would turn the house
Well,
facing
I'm
the street.
asking.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, if it's incorrect, I'm asking.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, I should have said that. Yeah.
I would think the property assessor is who establishes those lines on KGIS, so
Okay.
I would think she'd need to reach out to the property assessor and have
Okay.
their office look into it.
Again, okay, I mean, I can do it again,
Yeah.
sure.
Mr. Huff?
Is there anything that's preventing you from stick building a shed in the back?
I can't get it back there.
No. Is there anything?
I'm not going to build a second one only because of the cost, because I've already checked into it before I ever moved that one over there. I was just going to buy a new one. No, it was $15,000 for the same one I have.
I'm talking about building one using 2x4s and plywood, building it
Right.
like you would build a house from scratch. There's
Right.
nothing stopping you from doing that. Nothing
the-
physically stopping you from doing that.
Physically, I don't know about physically, if you can get wood back there. I don't know how anybody could get it back there, but I don't know how you get it back there. I don't know. Nobody will go back there. I don't know why. No one will go down in there. They won't help me do anything back there, which that's fine. If they can't do it, that's fine, but they just say they can't do it. That's what I get a lot.
Okay. Hey, you have anything else you'd like to add to your request?
No, ma'am, just
Your reasoning?
the house is just weird looking like that, since that's not how it is on the property at all.
Okay, I would do as well, contact the tax assessor's office again, so maybe they can come out and take care of that, so
I'll do it again, sure.
that would be good.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
You said you moved your shed from one place, another house, to the house that you're at now. Why did you move it from one house over to that house if you knew that there was no way to get back in there? Why did you not have them take it
No,
back?
I didn't know there was. He said he would move it back there for me. And then when he brought it, he looked and he said, no, there's no way. I said, yeah, that little machine that you brought it.
That was my question.
Oh,
Once he got there and told you that there's no way to get it back there, why did you not have them take it back, then wait to come and get a variance instead of placing it out there for almost 6 months?
I couldn't
4
because I sold
months.
that house.
Oh, okay, you sold
I
the
mean,
house.
I've had all these years, but I finally did sell it.
That was my question.
Ms. Garrett, this is your district. Would you like to?
This is a hard one.
Yes.
Looking at the pictures where the place, where the shed is now, it looks like it's closer to the road than it is, than the 12 feet that you're asking for. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to make a motion to deny the variance due to it being too close to the road and blocking the fire hydrant.
Not second that.
We have a motion to deny in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so I'm sorry, we have denied your request to move the the setback. So you're going to have to remove the building or find another location for it within the proper setbacks and locations.
Okay.
So you may can speak with codes or planning or someone that can help you with that, or another builder or someone. And what would this be as far as, does she have a time limit of when that building? Okay, codes, does she have a time limit as to when the building needs to be moved or removed?
I would think we would say 30 days. She needs to have it removed. If something comes up she can't, we could discuss further, but at this point, we would say 30 days.
Okay.
If I can get a crane, what do I need to do if I can hire a crane, which I didn't check this out, but if I could get a crane to move it somewhere, how do I go about getting a variance or whatever it is for that?
You'll need to, yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
I think you would need to figure out the furthest back you could get it, the minimum variance you would need, and then come back before this body. So the setback would be 35 feet. So if you couldn't meet the 35 feet, then you would need a variance to that.
35 feet from so many feet on my property line in the
Yeah,
front?
I would, yes, and there's roughly 12 feet of right-of-way, so you would need 47 feet from the curb line would be the minimum the building could be
47 feet?
from the curb line.
I think if you maybe spoke with, with whoever you want to call, speak with them, get their opinion, and then possibly maybe set up a meeting with codes to kind of give them your plan and see what they feel. Would that, is that
Yes.
workable?
that's-
Okay.
That's, yes.
Would that be in this building?
5th floor, room 5. Where you paid, you come back there and talk to Kelly or Kim.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, if we could read item 4B, Madam Clerk.
This is a request of Linda Schoen for waiver to extend the CA zone to the south by 100 feet. Property is located at 1508 Tipton Station Road, CLT map 137, parcel 059, property zone CA and AG in the 9th Commission District.
Is the applicant present? Do we have any opposition? We do have opposition, okay. Can we, do we have any statements from codes or planning that we would need to hear first?
Not at this time.
Okay. All right, if you would please come up, state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. I'm Linda Schoen. I
Pull it a
live
little
at
bit
Mike.
closer, yeah.
Thank you. I'm Linda Schoen. I live at 918 Tipton Station Road, and I own the property at 1508 Tipton Station Road that I'm here to ask the board to extend the CA zone 100 feet to the south. I rely on the section of the zoning ordinance that is 6.60.04A1 that says variance shall be granted only where special circumstances exist, such as topography. And in my request before the board, I have cited that the topography limits the use of the ag portion of the property. I also rely on Section 3.1105. The board may allow the extension of a zone where the boundary line thereof divides a lot in one ownership at the time of passage, which I believe that we are two zones in one ownership. If you look at the topography of the CA zone, you can see that there is a blue line. There's a stream. I'm not sure exactly how wide the stream is, but it's quite wide because it feeds into the Stock Creek stream itself. And the information that I have on the blue line is that you cannot disturb nor build 50 feet on either side of that blue line. And a significant portion of this area back here is going to be not buildable because of the blue line. In addition, there is at least about a 20-foot drop from the part starting on Same Lane over to the part on Newberg Springs, which, you know, there are major gullies along the back property line that nothing is going to be able to build there at all along that back line, because it's a substantial drop in the topography. As well as you can see that there are two structures there on the map. Those are already demolished. They were old, and right where they were sitting was really the best place to put a home there, because on the one closest to the south line that's in the ag zone, right behind it, you get this little topography going like this. So it's going to be very difficult to, you know, really do very much at all with the 1.4 acres that's really considered to be ag along that back line. Now, this is a low-density residential sector plan that was put in after the CA zone was already there. According to the rules, as best as I can understand them, I can already go ahead and put about 24 dwelling units in the CA zone that I currently have right now. I've checked with MPC and been told that the low-density sector plan allows 25, 5 per acre, 25 dwellings units can be put in the tract that I currently own. So I don't even need to come before the board to get a permit for all of those duplexes if I had ever intended to put all those duplexes there, which at the current time we do not. And I certainly don't intend to put things like apartments, which are not even zoned for this property. I'm not intending to come before a planning commission for the plan development or the RA. I don't know about all those things. I'm going to use the CA zone to make substantial investment in housing on this tract, because that's what the zone allows. Now, I can cram all these duplexes, if I wanted to, into just the 3 acres or so that I have there for CA, is my understanding. But that's not really aesthetically pleasing, and we do not intend to build 25 units on this property. It's a very beautiful property. My family has lived close to this property for almost 60 years. I felt very blessed to be able to purchase this property because I feel to be a steward of this property, and I don't think that 25 houses on this property would be appropriate. Of course, another developer might, but I'm not even a developer. I'm just a resident who has passed by this property every day for the last 30 years, basically. And what we want to do is try to make it as aesthetically pleasing as possible. The 100-foot extension to the south involves about 30,000 square feet, which is, I had it calculated a little bit lower than that, but I think somebody said about 30,000 square feet. But it's less than an acre. I'm still going to have substantial ag property back there. If I could just use the balance of my time to address the
Okay.
opposition.
That'd be fine.
Thank you.
Okay, Steve, do y'all have anything y'all want to say? From
Just one correction. There would be a 50-foot buffer either side of the stream. The inner 25 of that buffer would be unbuildable. The outer buffer, they could do some averaging and they could put parking areas or driveways in that outer portion, but they would have to have a wider variety of the, I guess, buffer somewhere else on the property. So
Okay.
the inner 25 is unbuildable. They can't disturb it. The outer 25, they can.
Okay. And I failed to ask the board if y'all had any questions for the applicant at this time. No. Okay, opposition? How many? I think we had a few raise their hand. Were you sworn in?
Yes.
Okay, and if you would, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Bill Geisel. My address is 1416 Tipton Station Road.
My name is Paul Yeager. I'm at 7710 Sane Lane. We're going to kind of cover this together, and we do have a handout to share with y'all.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you for your time and your service to hear our concerns. Let me give you a little bit of history. It was only beginning of last week that any of us saw the variance sign. It was put in a location that was not very visible. It was actually visible, but not very visible, and it was across the street from the property area in question. And so the number of people that we have here, would you raise your hands? These are all the folks from our neighborhood that have concern about this issue, and that response has been in short order. And what's interesting about that is that none of us have ever, other than a few friends together, that as a community, we've never had a meeting and this kind of response surfaced in very short order. So it's worth looking at this and thinking about the history of this area. I have been a property owner here. I'm just up the hill in Tipton Station, and I've been a property owner here since 2016. And so as you drive down Tipton Station, this is a neighborhood that kind of reminds you of the days of Mayberry, where every few miles you drive down Tipton Station, there are some crossroads. And back in the day, whoever zoned this commercial did it clearly for the purpose of helping the neighborhood with these small little mom and pop shops, filling stations in these residential neighborhoods and little markets. And this crossroads is evidentiary of that experience. There is, to the northeast, there is currently a building there that has often over the years been, since the development of John Sevier Highway and Chapman Highway and the retail centers that are now very close, these crossroads and these little stores have either gone away or they have not been able to be sustained. There was actually one on the corner of this said property asking for variance, and that's been gone for a long time. So it strikes you that the original zoning of this as commercial property is really a relic of days gone by and not really conducive to the environment for low-density residential. Now there is this concern, this potential of where everything else around it is single dwelling units, the possibility of this being used for commercial property to put multiple dwelling units is incredibly problematic. This property, as it borders on the Tipton Station side, it is down at the bottom of a hill. So all the topography kind of flows down to that large intersection you see on the screen. And so it becomes difficult to see it, particularly as you're coming from Tipton Station there to the east, as you come down. And the property in the smaller laneway, which my neighbor will talk about in a moment, that's just a single car width laneway that all of the property owners on that street called Sane Lane. So when you come down Tipton Station, if anybody's turning on or off of Sane Lane, you have to wait because one car can't pull in while another car pulls out. It's too narrow for that. And there is significant concern that given the fact that South Doyle High School is just another 1.5 miles down the street, and the amount of traffic that comes through there, that any substantial development there is going to be a hazard, and even the laneway can't sustain it. And all of this then as well, I think you got a brief from us. All of this is in lieu of the fact too that subsequent to that commercial zoning, the county sector plan has clearly designated this to be a low-density residential area. And so it strikes you then that this commercial zoning is really a relic from days gone by, and in some sense probably shouldn't even be there. But so our concern is that if we add an additional 100 feet of commercial zoning there, that it will push that back, then it will increase the ability of maybe not these owners, but maybe, who knows, in the future, it increases the amount of space at the front for commercial development, and that's problematic. And the ag could sustain a house. There is space there in what is now an ag area, and that their duplexes could be put closer to Tipton Station. So we ask that you consider denying this request. Paul?
Thanks, Bill. Again, I'm Paul Yeager. I live on Sane Lane. We understand the Shones' right to do stuff with their property. And it's already zoned commercial ag. That's not our issue. Our issue is switching an additional 100 feet to commercial ag. I handed out, or had one of the staff members hand out a picture of the lane. On one side of it, you're going to see just the road there. The left-hand picture on that page is actually standing at the proposed ag line, the south side of that, looking north toward Tipton Station. I drew in the red line to kind of attempt to show where the current ag line is. So there's a rise. It's a hill, gentle hill going up. As Mrs. Schoen has already talked about his topography on there. You see the rise coming up. And in that picture, you can see on the left side a telephone pole further up into the ag part already. And the second picture on that page is from that rise, the crest of the hill, down to Tipton Station. You can see there's not a whole lot of room for any cars, as Mr. Geisel's already mentioned, on that lane. The flip side of that page, you see a vehicle coming out from the crest of that hill to Tipton Station, toward Tipton Station. When we come in and out of there, we have to stop and wait for somebody else. Even going back further on the lane, you have to kind of wait to see if you can get to somebody's driveway or pull into a lawn or a field to get off of there. So as you come down from the picture, there you go. If you have, that's heading west on Tipton Station, and you'd have to stop and wait for somebody to come out to turn left onto St. Lane. That's actually Newbert Springs right there in the picture. But further back to the east is where Tipton Station comes in, where St. Lane comes in. So our whole issue is not so much, that's exactly right, up where the woods line is there, that's St. Lane. Our issue is if they come back another 100 feet, we now have additional traffic on the lane, because the frontage for those properties, those two houses you've seen earlier that are gone, and thank you, by the way, for getting rid of an eyesore, those would be the access points for the housing units and or a house coming onto St. Lane to just dump more traffic onto something that's already dangerous. Looking at the topography and stuff of where that's at, I think in the ag part, I think there's room for a house. Currently not for a duplex or something with multifamily dwelling on it. And then the commercial ag, there really isn't anything that we can do about that. We understand there could be lots of duplexes, there could be a Dollar General there, it could be a gas station, and they've lived out in our area for a long time as well, and have to drive by it every day too. So we all have to live with what's going on. Our main thing is that extra 100 feet, if you're coming out of that lane, it changes a lot of stuff. You throw 8, 10 more cars on there from the development standpoint. I think there's a great transition from what's already commercial ag. If there's a house in that one on the south part near the number, the elevation number on the topographical map there, to remain a house or put a house there, great transition into the rest of the agricultural area back toward our places. And by the way, there's 13 houses on the property now. I talked to the longtime resident since when he moved in 77, 8 additional houses have come in since then. We basically do another 25% increase in traffic on that road if we put additional duplexes on there. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you have anyone else in opposition? Okay, you've got about 4.5 minutes, I think.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'll be brief. Kevin Murphy, 4508 Murphy Road. In this case, the board is exercising a power other than its variance, and there's an applicable state law that I wanted to draw your attention to. Title 13, Chapter 3 governs regional planning for the state of Tennessee, and in that, our Knox County Planning Commission is the Regional Planning Commission. Our Knox County General Plan 2033 is our regional plan. And there's law and code, it's 13.3.304B1. I'm going to paraphrase it, but it basically says if the legislative body adopts a general regional plan in the form of a resolution, then any land use decisions thereafter made by County Commission, Planning, or the Board of Zoning Appeals, when the BZA is exercising powers on matters other than variances, must be consistent with the general plan. So today, you're exercising powers other than a variance, so your decisions need to be consistent with the general plan. Now, we, on page 50 of our general plan, specifically incorporated our sector plans into our general plan. We have the South County sector plan that was last amended and adopted by resolution at County Commission in March 2013. It said it was updating the general plan. So we have an applicable plan here. And in that plan, there is a land use classification table. It has land use. So first, this parcel is designated low-density residential. So that's something in the sector plan that's applicable. Secondly, there's a land use classification table in Appendix C of that sector plan. And in it lists recommended zoning and programs, and it also lists other zonings to consider. And then the county's planned growth area recommended zones include RA, RAE, and planned residential less than 6 dwelling units an acre. And it says you can also consider county, you can consider ag and RB. And the important point there is that nowhere does it say that CA is a recommended zone or a zone to consider in a low-density residential sector plan designation. So extending CA zoning in underneath the low-density residential sector plan could be considered to not be consistent with the regional plan of the county. And that's my point. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? You have just a few more minutes. If you would state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, I'll be brief. I'm Gary Norvell. I reside at 7816 Newbert Springs Road. And I'm trying not to repeat some of the things that have been said, but the concern I have is extending that line back 100 feet decreases the amount of buffer that's there now between the agricultural zone and the CA zone. And it also really, as far as a topography standpoint, doesn't do a lot to help that, because it basically brings in, if you look at the topography, there's a drainage way down through there. It's basically just bringing that into play, which is would be hard to build on. I guess the other thing that I would suggest, and I found out about this last night, and I wasn't aware of the meeting, or my wife and I would have been there. But given the fact that this is a CA zone, as a neighborhood, we can't be, there's always a possibility of somebody else coming in and doing something that would be allowed within the CA zone. And given the sector plan and the zoning, I would think it would be possible to look at some kind of a rezoning for the property. There's some PR right up there on the side, or close to it. And as far as the sector plan, I would guess in communications with Planning Commission, they revise sector plans quite often that I've observed, and it would probably be very possible to downzone this to something besides a commercial zone and get it to a planned residential zone, for instance, as well as revise the sector plan to where they would be allowed to do what they're thinking about doing. And that would give the neighborhood protection from the commercial zone.
Thank you. Okay, the time is up for opposition. Would you like to, I think you have a few more minutes.
How many?
What does she have?
How many minutes, please?
How many does she have?
Yes,
About 9?
Thank you. Let me address the last point. No one in the community. Oh, I'm sorry. No one in the community, other than 2 people, contacted us, even though my telephone number was on the BZA application, to find out what we wanted to do. And that was only after it was put in people's mailboxes that if you don't want a gas station or a warehouse or an office building, then you better come and see what's going on, and we're going to tell you, we're going to identify what we will and will not accept at 1508 Tipton Station Road. Now, I've not had an opportunity to review Title 13, Chapter 3, but I would point out to the board that the CA zone has been on that property since the 1950s, prior to the low-density residential sector plan. And I think that that is a very key point, because I don't think a low-density sector plan put in after a CA zone is already there can change that zone. Now, as far as additional traffic being on the lane, there are several big tracks left on Sane Lane that houses could be built on those. And there's already one at the very far end, the last little bit of Sane Lane. A new home was built there. And so if you assume that there's going to be at least 2 cars coming out all the way down Sane Lane, if you assume they have children, there might be a few more. The property that we're asking to use Sane Lane, if we use Sane Lane, which MPC will decide that, where we can have our driveways at, it's very short. It's not even 500 feet. And so I don't see how you can possibly complain about what we want to use to put homes there to use Sane Lane, if it even uses Sane Lane, which I don't know if it will or not. But how can you complain about that on one hand when you've got people driving the entire way of Sane Lane, newly built homes? And multiple dwellings being problematic, I heard that. Well, the CA allows multiple dwellings without coming back through the permitting process. As far as it being Mayberry, well, I've lived in the same home now for almost 28 years, right down the road from this property. And I've seen a lot of changes in Tipton Station Road. And just about 3 months ago, over at 1508, I think is the address, Tipton Station Road, there's going to be a 5,000 square foot store put there. And that's going to bring a lot of traffic into the area. And they had a right to do that because they're zone CA as well. The history of the area, I'm fully aware of the history of the area because, as I said, my family, my husband and I have been out there for at least 47 years, my husband 57 years. It's important to us what happens in South Knoxville, and important to us what happens on this most beautiful property as well. As far as the sign not being visible, somebody moved that sign. It was across the street because you see this tract has a ag zone across the street as well as one on the south portion. I assume that somebody from the Knox County came and placed the sign originally, then someone, I do not know who, moved the sign to the other side of the street. So the sign was posted, it's not been removed, it's been out there the entire time as required by law. And I don't think I have anything else, and thank you so much for your time.
Okay. Does anyone on the board have any questions for the applicant? At this time?
I have a question for Coates. If the entire property was zoned agricultural, she could still use it for duplexes?
Only one duplex. You have to have an acre for each dwelling, so she would have 2 acres, so she could build one duplex.
All right, thank you.
She could subdivide the property and get more. You know, you would have to have 2 acre lots.
Thank you.
And the Sane Lane, we addressed, you know, she did have 2 conforming homes there. We wouldn't allow access to Sane Lane without some sort of improvements were done. We would have to review the 2 houses that were there and see if we'd even allow those back. But if Sane Lane were to be accessed, we would be asking for improvements.
This probably has nothing to do with what's in front of us, except it's coming to my mind, so maybe it will. We've had this before where we've had to extend for the zoning because of a situation like this, where we had CA should be, you know, something different. But the change that was being requested was lining up with what the sector plan was. It was kind of backwards. So, I guess my question is, if it is a question, you know, if this were reversed a little bit, I could almost see it because it would then fall in line with the sector plan. But there's nothing really around there that is commercial except that and one other parcel. And I'm stretching my map out real far and I'm not seeing anything currently, and I'm not seeing anything that's changed. Someone else tell me if I'm not looking at this correctly to see if there's any other commercial that I'm missing that is near this property. Again, just comments. Mr. Holt? Oh, there's a light on somewhere. Oh, there you go.
If I could address that, across the street from this property.
Can't hear you.
Sorry.
It's okay.
As I stated in the comments, across the street at 1508 is a 5,000 square foot building that is being renovated to open as a farm stand grocery type store. I'm not exactly sure what all they're doing, but that is going to bring additional traffic into the area, and that is commercial.
Where are you seeing it? Go ahead.
And I think probably this is for codes too. The question of if it is already zoned commercial, when the sector plan comes in, the sector plan does not override that previous zoning. Is that correct?
That is correct. It doesn't override it. Zoning property is a specific legislative act. It doesn't happen by sector plan. So it's still zoned commercial, but the sector plan changes show the current intent for the use of the property.
I think that's what I was trying to get at. Mr. Huff?
Both points, the Title 13 is on point and quite applicable, I think. And as just been said, the sector plan can't change the existing zoning. However, changing the zoning of the ag portion to CA is not in accordance with the current sector plan, and therefore I don't believe is appropriate.
That's
And I'll make a motion right now, to deny this request.
I'll second that.
We have a motion to deny the request to extend the CA zone to the south by 100 feet in a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So
There was one no.
we had one no, okay. So, who did the second? Mr. Holt? Okay. So I think that I do want to make sure that we have, our reasoning down properly for that for the record. So I think that you said it quite eloquently prior to your motion, if you would put in the reasoning.
The reasoning is that the changing a zoning that's currently under a sector plan to a zone that's not allowed under the sector plan is not appropriate.
Thank you. You gave a wonderful presentation, by the way. It was very well thought out. As did the opposition, yes. Okay, Madam Clerk, if you would read 4C into the record.
On 4C, I'll be reading revised language. It's for a request of Jonathan Evans for waiver to allow construction of an in-ground swimming pool in the front yard setback of the home facing Liberty Park Road. Property is located at 1540 Pine Springs Road, CLT map 144, Group NA, parcel 003, property zone RA in the 4th Commission District.
Is the applicant present? Do we have any opposition? Okay, if you would state your name and address for the record and pull the mic down so we can hear you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm not Jonathan Evans. I am his office manager, Charlotte Mosier, and we are here asking for this variance so that we can build a swimming pool.
Okay, did you give your address?
The address of our company is Sequoia Swimming Pools, 417 South North Shore Drive, Knoxville.
Okay, and if you would please tell us what you're looking for and why we should give it to you.
Well, the homeowner would like to have an in-ground gunite pool in his backyard, and we're asking the commission to approve that for us.
Okay, and the reason that we're having to ask for a variance is because
I'm not certain.
Okay, you want to go ahead and
Help
stick?
me.
Yeah.
This
Codes.
parcel fronted, the home fronts Pine Springs Road. A couple of years ago, there was a subdivision, a development approved at the rear of the property as a part of that development, the access road cut through the rear of their property, and I'm guessing the owner sold a portion of their property to this developer to allow the road to be put in, which created a second front on the lot. So therefore, we have to look at it when we look at it that this pool is being built in the front yard of the house, so it would need a variance. It meets all applicable setbacks, it just needs a variance to be in the front yard.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
The address for this house is Pine Springs Road, which is basically what the post office might consider the front yard, right?
That's correct. And I didn't review the plat, but most plats for these developments say, you know, that they only have access to internal streets, so they wouldn't even have access to that rear road.
Mr. Holt, this is your district. Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, personally on this one, I feel like it's fairly straightforward considering the nature of the double front yard setbacks and the fact that the proposed pool is meeting all applicable setbacks as if it wasn't two front yards. I would just go ahead and make a motion to approve the request.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, you are so approved.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
The next one is a request of Julian Buke for waiver to allow a 26-foot by 12.5-foot fiberglass swimming pool to be located in the front yard. Property is located at 1720 Yachtsman's Way, CLT map 162, Group MD, parcel 029. The property zone PR in the 5th Commission District.
Okay, is the applicant present? Do we have any opposition? All right, if you would please let us know your name and address for the record.
Julian Buck at business address is 201 Wampler Drive, Lenore City.
Okay, and if you would give us the reason and your evidence supporting your request.
Yeah, so a very similar variance as Jonathan Edwards. 1720 Yachtsman is a corner lot, and we're proposing the pool to go on the side right there, on the Swan Falls Way side. The pool won't fit in the rear of the yard because of the 15-foot setback. And similar to them, we would meet all front yard setback requirements, but we just need a variance to place it in the side of the property right there.
And that is correct, codes. It meets all of the required setbacks.
Yes, we were discussing that, but because of the cul-de-sac bulb, how this house sits, the house behind it sits back behind, the pool by ordinance can't be out in front of that house. So the way the cul-de-sac bulb is, it scooted that house back. So if that were a straightaway street and the pool stayed behind the front of the house, we could approve it, but we can't because it'll be in front of that house. So it needs the variance.
Okay. Board have any questions for the applicant? District 5, this is Mr. Anderson's district.
At this point, being that it's a corner lot and there's not any problems with setbacks, I will approve and make a motion that we approve the request to have it set on the front side.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the waiver to allow the fiberglass swimming pool to be located in the front yard, and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, you are approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next.
Ready? The next request is for of Creative Structures for variance for waiver of rear yard setback from 35 feet to 21 feet, located at 1628 Dry Gap Pike, CLT map 047, parcel 238, the property zone AG in the 7th Commission District.
Okay, applicants are present. Do we have any opposition? Okay, if you would state your name and address for the record.
My name is Ryan Rasmussen, and I'm with Creative Structures. Our office address is 3208 Tazewell Pike, and we're the general contractor building Basswood Church at the property 1628 Dry Gap Pike, and we're asking just to reduce the rear yard setback from 35 feet to 21 feet.
And the reason for you asking that?
The reason is, to be honest with you, we are looking for some grace because through some surveying errors or some that kind of happened over a long period of time, we messed up and ended up pinning our building corners in the wrong place, and so yeah, we're asking for the setback.
I appreciate the honesty on that.
Sure.
So, all right,
And it
codes.
won't happen again, I feel very sure.
I hope not.
Does anybody have any questions? Codes, do you have anything that you can add for us?
I don't think so. We're discussing we're trying to call that a side where maybe we could get a smaller reduction, but there's no way it's going to be 35 feet no matter what it is, so.
No matter how you turn the page, huh?
And no community complaints.
I'm
No
sorry.
opposition? Y'all haven't received any opposition?
We've not received any opposition, no.
I do have an email here from the property owner behind saying that she does not have any opposition to it.
The people behind
Yes.
property? That might not be bad to have in the record, yeah.
For the record, please, would you just give it to codes for us? If-
I'm sorry. Oh, yes. Okay.
When did you discover your mistake?
We discovered it probably, it's probably early March, I think. Of course, after our building footings and slab and steel was erected and so forth, we really didn't know the property, that the neighbor behind us just brought it to our attention.
And this is the neighbor that's written the letter?
Yes.
Yes. Your light on, Mr. Holt?
Yeah, I think this one is a little bit of a unique case, and, admittedly, on the surface level, there's no true hardship, I think, to verify the setback. But, conversely, I think you take a step back and look at, how can we allow highest the best use of the property? I think it was an honest mistake in looking at, the neighboring property and the nature of, where this is potentially encroaching into the setback. I mean, it's wooded area butting up against a more wooded area, to which the neighboring property owner, I don't think, has any issue. And, obviously can't speak for future property owners, but I mean, it's, we're talking about, 10 feet further towards trees. Personally, I would be in favor of approving this. But, I think this one, I can't think of any negative implications that are really readily apparent here.
Can we see the letter? Let's- I can't see where I've got anything here.
This is just an agreement.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right, so am I going to, will we consider that to be a motion? Mr. Holt, and you did a second? All right, so we do have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
We have 8 in favor, 1, and 2 opposed. I'm sorry, so 7, thank you, 7 and 2 in favor.
May I inquire? What's the justification in the ordinance for approving?
We need a justification for the approval. There, as you said, there really is not a topographical issue. It was a mistake.
It was.
It was a mistake. There have been no complaints from the community.
Yeah, I guess if you want to enter the record, I would say, I mean, it was a self-created hardship of an honest mistake.
Okay. All right, you've been approved.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. Okay, our
Next item is a deferred request of Rick Wilkinson for waiver of peripheral boundary side yards from 35 feet to 5 feet at 8502 Nubbin Ridge Road, CLT map 145, parcel 001, property zone PR in the 4th Commission District.
Hello again.
Hello again.
You would please state your name and address for the record?
Rick Wilkinson, 8120 Nubbin Ridge Road. The
Alrighty.
status today is the same as it was at the last meeting. I'm waiting on the attorneys to work out something for me. I hope to be back here at the next meeting or July at the very latest. Thank you.
So are we,
This is one we're going to defer.
do we need a motion? Okay.
I make the motion that we do defer this until such time he and the attorneys can,
No, we need an end date. You got to have a date.
well, it defer it to, what month? May 2023.
Actually, June.
Would it be better to defer it further for you?
Yeah, June would be
60
more
days.
realistic.
Well, take that back and make it for 60 days.
Okay.
For the
Thank you.
June 2023 meeting. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Thank
You're
you.
deferred. Okay.
Okay, the next item is request of Catherine Calhoun for waiver of front yard setback from 40 feet to 5 feet at 10750 Mountain Road, CLT map 007, Group LA, parcel 015, Zone AG in the 8th Commission District.
Is the applicant available? Present?
Coates, have you heard anything?
We have not heard from the applicant, but the issue with the plat was worked out, and I think they were able to get a plat that was approvable, that where the structure met setbacks. So I'm guessing they're going to withdraw. I guess if the board wishes, they could defer for 30 days, and we'll reach out to the applicant and find out.
Okay,
I'd like to make the motion to defer for 30 days, dependent on the outcome of what is going on.
I second it.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
I would have a question for Mr. Moyers. If we reach out and the applicant wishes to withdraw, do we need to put her back on, or we just withdraw her from the
I
agenda?
think you can just withdraw her.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So approved. And this meeting is now adjourned.